at California, 3-4 weeks, and Snoop never saw him, but it was a whole lot of love? Come on, man.
True Snoop, doggy, doggy, dog. Snoop Lion. That's what you need to keep your name. Snoop Lion, because you always lying.
Snoop wasn't even next to us when that happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, he bugging. He knew damn well it wasn't like that.
When Snoop Dogg starts spinning one of his wild stories, everybody leans in. It could be about Tupac, Biggie, or some random Hollywood-style night, but people can't look away. The twist? Insiders claim a lot of these stories are flat-out made up. Over the years, Uncle Snoop has been called out multiple times for tales that sound exaggerated, questionable, or just plain unbelievable. And like they say, every story has three sides: the first-person side, the second-person side, and the messy truth buried somewhere in the middle. See, sometimes when two people live through something, a third person jumps in to tell it. But if that third person wasn't even there, or only caught pieces of it, their version can be way off. That's exactly what many believe happened with Snoop when he told his version of a so-called run-in between Nas and Tupac, right in the middle of the East Coast versus West Coast firestorm. To really get it, we've got to rewind to Nas's second album, It Was Written. The opening track, The Message, dropped that now infamous line, "Fake thug, no love. You get the slug? CB full gusto." On paper, that bar wasn't aimed at anyone specific, but Pac took it personal. And if you know Pac, once he felt disrespected, it was over. That one misunderstanding landed Nas on Pac's target list, right alongside Big E, Puffy, and the whole Bad Boy crew. So when Pac touched down in New York for the MTV Music Awards, the tension was already boiling over. That's when Snoop swooped in with his story, claiming he had the inside scoop on what really went down that night. According to Snoop's version, Tupac and the Death Row Squad pulled up, and Nas rolled in with a massive entourage, nearly 100 deep from Queens. Snoop painted the cinematic picture of Pac snapping on Nas, cursing him out, throwing verbal shots, and clowning him hard. Meanwhile, Nas supposedly stayed calm and cool, surrounded by his army of men, letting Pac rant like a hothead. In Snoop's retelling, it sounded like a straight-up gangster movie showdown, with Nas holding the power to crush Death Row right there but choosing peace instead. From Snoop's perspective, it made Nas look like the wise one while Pac came off reckless, not even realizing how close he was to getting shut down. Jay-Z, Biggie, even Snoop himself would later spin the story the same way, painting Nas as a calm king and Pac as the out-of-control soldier. But here's the kicker: Snoop wasn't even there that night. His whole story was fabricated, and the first person to check him on it was none other than Napoleon, one of Pac's tightest boys from the Outlaws, who actually lived through that moment. According to Napoleon, Snoop's whole version of events was pure fiction.
But Nas didn't want none. But Nas had 3 guns. Right. So listen to what I'm telling you. Yeah. By me saying he didn't want none didn't mean he didn't park out. It mean he just didn't want to
go there.
I couldn't even see them. I did because I got a gangbang mentality. I seen them doing a circle. Right. Putting their hands in their pocket, one pocket.
There wasn't some high-stakes standoff with Nas's crew plotting an ambush. The reality was way different, and a whole lot less dramatic than Snoop wanted fans to believe. When Pac and Nas actually crossed paths, there was no chaos, no shouting, no street war vibes. Napoleon swore it was nothing but mutual respect. Pac spoke his truth. Nas spoke his, and they handled it like men face to face. Pac even promised that once he got back to L.A., he'd erase Nas's name from any diss track where it popped up. But tragically, Pac never got the chance. He was killed before he could follow through on that promise. Still, the message was clear. There was never some explosive showdown the way Snoop tried to paint it. And if you think Napoleon was just spinning stories to defend Pac, the receipts are there. Nas himself later confirmed what really happened. Sure, there was tension, but it never went down the way Snoop described. Pac never disrespected him face to face. Instead, they actually talked it out, killed the beef, and walked away with respect for each other. Which raises a question: was Snoop even there at all? That's when Napoleon dropped another bombshell. He flat out said he doesn't even remember Snoop being present at that Bryant Park run-in. Yet somehow, Snoop's been doing interviews claiming he witnessed the whole thing. to Napoleon. That didn't add up, and it proved once again that Snoop's been bending history to make himself look larger than life. But the tall tales don't stop there. Another one Snoop loves to tell is about Pac's time behind bars. According to him, Pac was in serious danger in prison, surrounded by threats, until Snoop supposedly convinced Suge Knight to swoop in and bail him out, basically acting like he saved Pac's life. But Napoleon wasn't having it. He called straight cap on that version of events. He said Pac wasn't in danger at all during his prison stretch. In fact, Pac was respected inside. He was making friends, building connections, and Napoleon even revealed that during visits, Pac never once complained about being unsafe. Did Pac want out of prison? Of course, nobody wants to sit in a cell. But that whole Snoop the hero angle? Pure fabrication, according to Napoleon. And it doesn't end with Pac. Snoop's habit of rewriting history even stretches over to Biggie. He's always pushed this image that he and Biggie were tight, almost like brothers, full of love and respect for each other. But according to Gene Deal, Puff Daddy's former bodyguard who saw everything up close, the truth was nothing like the fairy tale Snoop's been selling. In an interview with The Art of Dialogue, Gene Deal didn't hold back. He flat out said Biggie never really messed with Snoop like that. According to Gene, Biggie had zero respect for him and wasn't fond of him at all.
Wasn't cursing out Nas. We gonna keep it 100. You know what I mean? Pac wasn't disrespecting Nas at all. You know, I know Snoop said Pac punked Nas and then went to Snoop and said, you see how I got these New York dudes? None of that happened, bro. It was a respect. It was a mutual respect thing. When Pac and Nas met each other, it was nobody talking disrespect from both sides. Maybe the people behind Nas and the people behind Pac was me mugging, saying certain things, but Pac and Nas handled it like real gentlemen, real, you know.
He questioned the whole act Snoop's been selling for years. If Snoop was really that close with both Biggie and Pac, why didn't we see that brotherhood until after they were gone? Gene made it clear those stories about Snoop being the middleman, the peacemaker, the bridge between East and West, were convenient narratives. They made Snoop look good, like the calm, cool voice of reason in hip-hop. But in reality, Gene said it was never that friendly. The so-called bond with Biggie, according to him, it didn't even exist until after Pac's death. Gene even asked the hard question, wasn't Biggie in California for 3, maybe 4 weeks? Yet in all that time, Snoop never pulled up to see him, never smoked with him, never ate with him, nothing. Years later, Snoop acted like there was this deep brotherhood. Come on now. Biggie was out in Cali, but somehow the tight friendship only shows up in Snoop's retellings. Of course, Snoop's got his own version of events. After Biggie's death in 1997, he repeatedly went on record about the respect he had for him. In a 2018 Rap Radar interview, Snoop dropped a dramatic story about bumping into Biggie in Atlanta after Pac's death. He claimed they had a deep heart-to-heart conversation, just the two of them, no one else around. According to Snoop, Biggie opened up. He told him he loved Pac, that he never wanted him dead, and even apologized for things he'd said. Snoop painted it like a powerful moment of closure between two giants. He even said he never fully blamed Biggie for the shooting incident during THA Dog Pound's NYNY video shoot in Brooklyn, choosing to let it slide. But Gene Deal poured ice-cold water all over that story. He admitted he couldn't confirm the Atlanta meeting, since he wasn't there, but he raised a key point. If Snoop could pull up solo to Biggie's hotel room in Atlanta, why didn't we ever see him around Big when he was in Los Angeles? For Gene, the math wasn't mathing. He spelled it out plain. I can see you in Atlanta, but I can't see you in California, my own hometown. So you're saying you're gangster enough to roll up on Biggie in Atlanta, but in L.A., you couldn't link with him. With that, Gene cast heavy doubt on Snoop's story. And that's when the whole two-faced Snoop narrative really started clicking. Because Gene isn't the only one who's accused Snoop of rewriting history. Even Tupac himself called him out while he was alive. By the time Pac was killed, he and Snoop weren't even on good terms anymore. Insiders say their relationship had crumbled, and at the root of it all was one word, jealousy. Before Pac signed to death row, Snoop was a golden boy. Suge Knight Star, the face of West Coast rap, the man everybody was watching. But the moment Pac came home from prison, the spotlight shifted overnight. Pac dropped music nonstop, lit up the culture, and instantly became the new center of attention. And according to people who were there, Snoop didn't take that shift well. That jealousy started creeping into the smallest things, boiling under the surface until it finally exploded in a major way. For all the peacekeeper stories Snoop tells now, the truth is that back then, he and Pac were on shaky ground, and everybody around them knew it. The breaking point came after Pac dropped his infamous diss track Hit 'Em Up, the record that shook hip-hop to its core. By 1996, the Death Row versus Bad Boy War was at its absolute peak, and everyone had already picked a side. Tensions were boiling when the crew hit New York for the MTV VMAs, but it was Snoop's behavior that raised eyebrows. He skipped a scheduled SNL rehearsal with Pac, already a red flag. Then, he blindsided him completely. Out of nowhere, Snoop hopped on a New York radio station and told the world, "I got nothing but love for Biggie and Puffy." Now, you gotta understand, the beef was so deep that saying that in New York of all places was like a slap across Pac's face. And it wasn't just about the words. Just days earlier, Snoop had been in the studio right beside Pac, laying down diss tracks aimed straight at Biggie and Puff. That's what cut the deepest. 1 minute Snoop was riding with Pac on wax, throwing heavy shots, and the next he was smiling for the radio, showing love to the same people they were dissing. To Pac, that was straight betrayal. Before they ever got the chance to hash it out, Vegas happened. Pac was killed, and Snoop quickly shifted the narrative, telling interviewers Pac just didn't understand him. Snoop swore he never hated Biggie, never wanted him hurt, but Pac supposedly couldn't see that. But here's the thing. If Snoop really had no issue with Big, then why was he in the booth helping Pac record diss records? Why talk tough in the studio, then flip around and tell the media the exact opposite? To many, it looked like Snoop was playing both sides, protecting his own image while letting Pac take all the heat. And the story only got messier after Pac's death. Instead of standing firm with the Outlaws, Snoop linked up with Big Dre from the Southside Compton Crips, a man many insiders believe could have been the real triggerman in Vegas. Not long after, Big Dre launched Run of Records and dropped a mixtape with features from Warren G, MC8, and yes, Snoop Dogg himself. That move sparked outrage. Why would Snoop align himself with someone tied to Pac's murder? To Pac's fans, that spoke volumes. It felt like Snoop was finally showing his true colors, that maybe Pac's death didn't mean as much to him as he wanted the world to believe. And once the backlash started, Snoop flipped again. Suddenly, every interview had him showering Pac with love, acting like they were inseparable until the very end. But to those paying attention, it looked less like truth and more like straight-up damage control. And this is the pattern people keep pointing out. Snoop's street credentials are solid. No one's denying he really came up with a rolling 20 Crips. But he's got a habit of flipping real events into movie-style stories that make him look bigger, badder, and bolder than the truth. His training day story is a perfect example. Snoop claimed he pulled up in enemy territory wearing a blue tracksuit, calmly brokered peace with a local OG, and smoothed everything out. But according to those who were really there, it didn't go down like that at all. Instead of Snoop handling it like a street diplomat, the Bloods in that hood weren't having it. They wilded out, caused chaos, and even threw bottles at his trailer to intimidate him. And while Snoop stayed holed up inside, it wasn't him who saved the day. It was Spice One. Spice One said his OG homie called him and warned things were about to go left quick. When he pulled up, the Bloods instantly cooled down out of respect for who he was. He didn't flex, he didn't bark orders, he just laid it out plain. If this blows up, the cops will flood the block heavy. Nobody wanted that heat, so they slid around the corner, sparked some weed, and chilled. By the time it was safe, Spice circled back, smoked with Snoop, and kept it moving. That's a kicker. Snoop was inside the whole time, completely shielded from just how close things came to exploding outside. But years later, he retells the story like he was the one holding it all together. And that's why so many cracks keep showing in his legacy. The Dogfather still gets his flowers in hip-hop, but with every retelling, more people are starting to question whether Snoop's greatest talent isn't just rapping, but rewriting history.